The rain began as a whisper against the old window pane. Soft at first, then heavier, the kind that soaks through the earth and fills the night with its rhythm. Elena sat by the fire. Her hands trembled around a porcelain cup of tea. The clock on the wall ticked unevenly. Outside, the wind moved through the trees like a sigh. She loved nights like this once. Nights when stories were told, when her grandmother spoke of a beast who lived beyond the forest, a creature that waited for lonely souls wandering in the storm. The fire cracked. A shadow moved across the room. Elena froze. Her reflection in the window shimmered for a moment, then vanished. The sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway. Slow, heavy. Each step seemed to press into the floorboards with purpose. Elena! The voice came from the darkness, low and calm, yet somehow familiar. Her breath caught in her throat. She turned toward the sound. The hallway was empty. Only the soft drip of rain filled the silence. She set her cup down. The porcelain clinked against the saucer like a warning. Her pulse quickened. The fire dimmed, as if the room itself was holding its breath. The door to the hallway creaked open. A faint scent of wet leaves and earth drifted in. Then she saw it, a shape standing just beyond the threshold. It was tall, broad-shouldered, its face hidden by shadow. Yet she felt the eyes on her, ancient and sorrowful. "Elena," the voice repeated, "you promised to finish the story." Her chest tightened. Her grandmother's tale rushed back into her mind. The girl who never ended the story. The girl the beast came for. The wind howled against the house. The fire flickered and threw sparks across the floor. Elena took a step back. The shadow took a step forward. Rain hammered the windows now. Thunder rolled above the valley. The air in the room grew colder. Her breath became mist. "Who are you?" she whispered. The figure tilted its head. "You already know," it said. "And so does the rain." A drop fell from the ceiling and landed on her hand. Warm. Not water. Blood. She looked up. The ceiling above the fireplace was dark and damp. A slow red stream traced its way down the wall. The beast smiled through the flickering firelight. Elena stumbled backward, knocking over the chair. The old story was not a tale. It was a warning. And she had just become part of it. The rain outside grew louder. It was no longer a rhythm. It was a chant, calling her name. She covered her ears. But the voice came from within now. From her own heartbeat. From her own breath. The beast stepped closer. Its eyes gleamed gold in the dim light. The scent of wet soil filled the room. And behind it, the faint smell of roses, dying roses. Elena took another step back. Her heels struck something soft. She looked down. A second teacup lay shattered on the rug. Still warm. Still steaming. Someone else had been there before her. She turned toward the door. It was closed now, locked from the outside, and the rain whispered her name again. The fire flared once more, and for a brief, trembling moment, she saw her grandmother's face in the flames. Smiling, pitying. "Elena," the beast murmured. "Stories are promises, and promises must be kept." The walls seemed to close in. The rain pounded like drums, and Elena realized she had reached the part of the story her grandmother never told. Elena's breath quivered in her chest. The fire's glow painted her face in trembling orange light. Her eyes darted to the windows. Blackness pressed against the glass, thick and impenetrable. The storm had swallowed the world outside. The beast stood motionless. Its eyes were like liquid gold, deep and unreadable. Each drop of rain outside sounded heavier, slower, as though time itself had changed pace. The walls groaned with age, the wooden beams expanding in the damp air. She could almost hear the house breathe. "Why me?" Elena whispered. Her voice broke like fragile glass. The beast tilted its head slightly, almost human, almost kind. "Because you began what you did not understand." Her mind raced back to her grandmother's voice. The old woman's stories always carried a rhythm, like rain on rooftops. Every tale was a warning disguised as a bedtime comfort. Elena remembered the words clearly now. Once the tale of the beast is spoken aloud, it listens. She felt the room shift. The fire dimmed again, flickering low. The warmth was leaving, pulled toward the creature as though it consumed the very heat around it. The scent of damp soil grew stronger. Elena could almost taste it on her tongue, cold, metallic, alive. The beast stepped forward. Its shadow crawled up the walls, swallowing the faded portraits that lined them. Elena caught sight of her grandmother's portrait. The paint cracked and faded. For a moment, she swore the eyes in the painting were wet with tears. "You told her story," the beast said, its voice low and echoing like thunder trapped inside stone. "But you forgot the ending." "I never knew it," Elena replied, her voice shaking. The creature smiled, revealing teeth too perfect to belong to anything human. "Then tonight, you shall learn." The room darkened as if night had fallen again within night. Elena's heart pounded loud enough to drown the rain. She stepped backward until her spine met the cold wall. Her palms pressed flat against the peeling wallpaper. Something pulsed beneath it, a faint throb, like a heartbeat. She yanked her hands away in horror. The wallpaper rippled where she had touched it. Veins spread through it, red and thin. The house was alive. The beast's golden eyes flickered toward the wall, then back at her. "It remembers her," it said. "Your grandmother made her promise here, too." Elena's throat went dry. "What promise?" The beast's smile faded. That she would never stop telling the story. That she would feed it. Feed it. With voices. With fear. With hearts that listen. The fire crackled again, and through its light, Elena saw movement, faint outlines of faces in the smoke. Dozens of them. Eyes wide. Mouths open in silent screams. She recognized some of them, villagers from her grandmother's stories. Characters that were never supposed to exist. Her knees weakened. She sank to the floor, trembling. The beast crouched in front of her, the floorboards creaking beneath its weight. "You have inherited her story," it said, "and now it must live through you." Elena shook her head violently. "No, this is madness." The beast's breath brushed her face, warm, damp, and scented faintly of ash. "Madness is just the part of the story you do not understand yet." Thunder rolled across the valley. Lightning flashed through the window for a split second, illuminating the creature fully. Its skin shimmered like wet stone. Its eyes burned brighter than the fire. And behind it, the air itself seemed to twist and bend. "Elena," it whispered. "Every storyteller leaves something behind." "What did she leave?" The beast smiled again. "You." A chill tore through her body. Her reflection in the window shifted, her own face melting into her grandmother's for a heartbeat before snapping back. Her lips trembled. "I am not her." The beast's voice deepened. "You are the story she never finished." Her heart felt like a drum, pounding against her ribs. Rain lashed against the glass, harder and harder until cracks spread across the panes. Water began to leak through, crawling across the floor like living threads. The room smelled of iron and with smoke. The air pulsed with energy, old and heavy. The portraits on the walls began to weep black tears. Each drop hissed as it touched the ground. The beast reached out its hand. Its claws shimmered in the firelight, each tipped with darkness. "Tell the story," it said softly. "Finish it, and you may yet live." Elena's mind raced. Her lips trembled as words from childhood began to form, fragments of the old tale. "Once there was a beast who lived in the rain," she began. "It waited for the sound of footsteps, for the warmth of human hearts." The beast leaned closer, eyes gleaming. "Yes," it hissed. "Speak it." "The beast was alone," Elena continued, "and it wanted someone to remember it." Her voice quivered. Her chest burned with fear and something else, a strange sorrow. The beast's face softened for a moment. "Now you understand," it said. Its voice no longer monstrous, but weary. Elena's tears mixed with the rain dripping through the ceiling. The fire dimmed until only embers glowed. She whispered, "It was never the beast that haunted us, was it?" The creature looked at her with eyes full of grief. It was the silence after the story ended. The house shuddered. Wind roared through the chimney, scattering ashes into the air. The firelight twisted into spirals that danced like spirits. The walls bled red light from within. Elena stood slowly, her fear now mixed with a strange calm. The beast rose, too, towering over her. Its form flickered, fading in and out like mist. "Tell it all," it murmured. "End it." She drew a breath, her voice steady now. "The rain fell, and the beast listened," she said. "It listened to every voice that ever called its name. But one voice, one heart stayed. Mine." The beast's form began to blur, melting into shadow. The rain outside softened to a whisper. The house grew still. Only the sound of her heartbeat remained. Elena felt warmth return to the room. The portraits stopped weeping. The smell of roses filled the air again, not dead this time, alive, fresh, blooming. But before relief could reach her, a sound came from behind. The faint creak of the door. Slow, deliberate. She turned. Another figure stood in the doorway. Her grandmother. Eyes hollow, face pale as moonlight. "Elena," she said, voice like a sigh. "You finished it." Elena took a step back, her heart freezing. "Yes," she whispered. Her grandmother smiled faintly. "Then now it begins again." The fire died. Darkness flooded the room. And through the silence, the rain began to whisper once more, telling another story, this time in Elena's voice. The whisper of rain grew clearer. It was no longer a distant murmur on the window pane. It spoke. Each drop carried a syllable. Each gust of wind formed a word. Elena stood frozen in the black room. The last spark from the hearth hissed and vanished. Her grandmother's shadow lingered by the doorway, unmoving. The air smelled of wet ash and roses. And something else, the faint, sharp scent of iron. "Elena!" The shadow said again, softer now. Her voice trembled like leaves caught in a storm. "You were never meant to stop the story." The words curled through the dark like smoke. Elena took a step forward. The floorboards groaned under her feet. She could feel moisture seeping between the planks, cold and thick. When she looked down, the water was no longer clear. It shimmered red in the dim light that flickered from nowhere. "I finished it," Elena whispered. Her own voice sounded strange, hollow. Her reflection rippled in the red puddle below. Half her face looked human. The other half seemed to twist, distort, melt into something wild. Her grandmother's eyes gleamed in the dark. "Stories like this never end," she said. "They change shape. They move from one heart to another, from one voice to the next." Elena shook her head, her hands trembling. "I do not want it." The shadow's smile deepened. "That is how all storytellers begin." The house groaned again, louder now. The walls expanded and contracted like lungs drawing breath. The wallpaper peeled back in strips, revealing pulsing wood beneath. Veins of black ink spread across the ceiling, forming words she could not read. Ancient, flowing, alive. She stumbled backward, her shoulder hitting the table. The porcelain teacup shattered, shards scattering like ice. The sound echoed endlessly, far too long for such a small room. When it finally stopped, the silence that followed was thicker than air. "Elena!" came the beast's voice, distant but clear, from everywhere at once. Her breath caught. "You said it was over," she whispered. The voice laughed, soft and sad. "Stories do not end. They remember." The walls around her shimmered like wet paper. Through them, she saw flashes, scenes that bled into one another. A girl walking through a storm with a candle. A man kneeling before a creature made of mist. A family gathered by the fire, whispering the same tale she once told. Every face turned toward her. Every mouth moved in unison, repeating her name. "Elena!" She clutched her head, the voices pounding like drums inside her skull. Her knees hit the floor. Rain leaked from the ceiling again, now pouring freely. The water rose around her ankles, then her calves, cold as ice. She gasped for air, trembling. The reflection in the water no longer belonged to her. It was the beast. Its golden eyes gleamed from beneath the surface. Its mouth moved with her own voice. "Tell me the story," it whispered from the reflection. "Tell me what comes next." Elena's heart pounded against her ribs. Her grandmother's shadow watched silently. She wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. The windows had turned black, as if the night outside had grown solid. She forced herself to speak. Her voice came out low, trembling. The rain fell, and the beast listened. The reflection blinked, smiling faintly. And then, Elena hesitated. Her throat tightened. Words rose from her memory, fragments of tales her grandmother told in candlelight. The girl in the story always found the beast, but she never escaped. The beast waited for the one who would remember, Elena said slowly. For the one who would not fear it. The reflection's smile widened. And now, Elena's breath faltered. Now it is free. The surface of the water shattered outward, splashing across the room. The reflection vanished. The golden eyes appeared behind her instead. She turned sharply. The beast stood there again, no longer shadow, no longer mist. It was real. Its fur was dark and matted with rain. Its chest rose and fell with slow, steady breaths. Each exhale smelled of earth and storm. "Elena," it said, voice almost gentle. "You have done what she could not." She stepped backward, shaking. "What do you mean?" "You gave the story a new ending." Its golden eyes softened. "You freed me from hers." Her heartbeat slowed for a moment. The creature's tone was no longer cruel, no longer haunting. Almost grateful. Then the air shifted again. The storm outside grew louder, as if the world had heard them. "What happens now?" she asked. The beast lowered its gaze. "Now it needs a new keeper." The floor beneath her feet began to tremble. The water rippled outward, glowing faintly in the dark. Her grandmother's figure dissolved into mist, her voice fading with the wind. "Every story has a price, Elena. Pay it." "No," she whispered, clutching her chest. The beast stepped closer. "You already have." The walls cracked, and light poured through the fractures. Not sunlight, but something colder, older. It shimmered blue and silver, like moonlight trapped in glass. The house moaned as the roof began to split open. Rain fell in sheets through the widening gap, drenching everything. Elena stumbled backward until she stood in the middle of the room. The water reached her waist now. The beast stood opposite her, half submerged. Its eyes never left hers. "Tell the last line," it said. "Elena, finish the story." She could not breathe. The words formed on her tongue, heavy as stone. "I am the voice that remains," she whispered. "The one who listens when the rain begins." The beast nodded slowly. Its body began to dissolve, threads of shadow unspooling into the storm. Its voice echoed softly, fading with the thunder. "Now it is yours." The water surged upward in a final wave, swallowing the room in darkness. Elena gasped, reaching out. But there was nothing to hold, only cold rain and whispering wind. When the silence returned, she opened her eyes. She was outside. The house was gone. Only the forest remained, dripping, glistening, breathing. The storm had passed, leaving the air heavy with mist. The ground beneath her feet shimmered faintly. Puddles reflected not the sky, but faces, dozens of them, familiar and strange. They smiled at her. "Elena!" they whispered in unison. "Tell it again." Her lips parted. The air trembled. She could feel the words rising from within her, ancient and alive. "The rain began as a whisper," she said softly. The wind stirred the trees. The puddles rippled with golden light, and the forest began to listen. Somewhere deep in the valley, thunder rolled again, not from the sky, but from the ground itself. A new heartbeat, a new story. Elena closed her eyes. The scent of roses filled the air once more. The whisper of the beast's voice lingered in her ear. Every storyteller becomes what they tell. She felt her heartbeat slow. Her reflection in the puddle shimmered, then shifted, golden eyes staring back. Her voice merged with the sound of the rain. Each drop carried her words now. Each gust of wind carried her name. And somewhere, far beyond the forest, someone else lit a fire. Someone else began to tell the story. The rain began as a whisper against the window pane. The forest was breathing. Each leaf glistened with dew that pulsed faintly in rhythm with her heartbeat. The air hung heavy with the scent of rain and something older, something that had no name. Elena stood still, the hem of her soaked dress clinging to her legs, the mist curling around her feet like ghostly hands. She could hear faint murmurs drifting through the trees, voices carried on the damp wind, distant yet intimate. "Elena!" The sound came from everywhere at once. It was not threatening now. It was pleading, calling her deeper into the forest. She hesitated. Behind her, the ruins of a house smoldered faintly, its shape barely visible through the mist. The flames had gone, leaving behind only ash and silence. When she turned back toward the forest, she saw a faint light flickering between the trees. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Her bare feet sank into the wet soil as she walked. Each step made a soft sucking sound. The trees loomed higher, their trunks blackened by rain, their roots twisted like veins in the earth. Drops of water slid from branches above and landed on her skin, cold as tears. The forest floor shimmered with puddles that reflected the sky, yet the sky above was black. The light ahead grew brighter. It danced like candle flame, golden and alive. The voices grew clearer. They were whispering stories, fragments, broken sentences, unfinished words. Each one ended the same way, with her name. When she reached the clearing, the sight stole her breath. There were thousands of candles, some on the ground, some floating in the air, their flames untouched by wind or rain. They formed a circle around a single stone pedestal, and resting upon it, soaked and gleaming, was a book. Its cover looked like living skin, pulsing faintly with light. Water dripped from its edges, but no page seemed to be wet. Elena stepped closer. Her reflection shimmered in the slick surface of the pedestal, her eyes catching the candlelight, now golden, like the beast's. Her fingers hovered over the book. The moment she touched it, warmth surged through her hand, racing up her arm, into her chest. It felt like a heartbeat merging with her own. The whispers around her grew louder. They were speaking the story, her story, from the very beginning. The rain began as a whisper against the old window pane. She gasped, pulling her hand back, but the warmth did not fade. It was inside her now. Her pulse echoed with the rhythm of those words. Every beat of her heart carried a line. Every breath felt like the turning of a page. From the shadows between the trees, figures began to emerge. They were the faces she had seen in the puddles, pale, glimmering, translucent. Each one carried a faint golden glow in their eyes. They formed a silent circle around her, their gazes gentle but unblinking. "Who are you?" she asked. Her voice trembled, yet it did not sound afraid. It sounded tired. "Storytellers," one of them whispered. "Keepers. Dreamers. The ones who came before." Elena's throat tightened. Her gaze dropped to the book again. The title was carved deep into the cover, The Rain and the Beast. Her grandmother's handwriting. She traced the letters with trembling fingers. A drop of water fell from her cheek onto the page, but when it landed it turned to ink. The words began to move. Sentences rearranged themselves, shaping into something new. She could hear the beast's voice again, softer now, speaking from the pages. "Elena, every story needs a voice. And every voice must choose, to remember or to forget." The wind moved through the clearing, extinguishing half the candles. The forest darkened again. The remaining flames leaned toward her, flickering as if waiting. Her reflection in the pedestal shimmered once more. But this time, it smiled before she did. She heard her grandmother's voice, not from memory, but from the air around her. "You have carried it farther than I ever could. Now you must decide. Will you end it, or will you tell it?" Elena's heart pounded. She looked at the forest of candles, the silent figures, the living book. If she ended it, the beast would fade. The rain would stop whispering. But so would the stories, and the world would fall silent. She closed her eyes. Her breath came slow and steady. The rain began again, gentle this time, soaking the earth in silver light. She placed both hands on the book and spoke. "I will tell it." A shiver rippled through the air. The candles flared all at once, golden light flooding the forest. The figures bowed their heads, their shapes dissolving into mist and light. The book's pages flipped rapidly, faster than wind could move them. Each page that turned left behind glowing symbols that floated into the air, drifting upward like fireflies. The ground beneath her glowed with soft blue light. Roots shifted underfoot. The forest breathed deeply as though relieved. The whispers changed, no longer pleading, no longer haunted. Now they sang. "Elena tells the rain," they whispered in rhythm. "Elena keeps the voice alive." She felt warmth spread through her chest, spreading to her fingertips. Her eyes burned gold. The words lifted from the pages, spinning around her, weaving through her hair, her skin, her breath. She was no longer reading. She was becoming the story. The beast's voice spoke one last time, distant, yet clear as thunder. "Now you understand. There is no curse, only memory. And the memory must live." The wind roared. The candles extinguished in unison, plunging the world into darkness. Only the book remained, glowing faintly beneath her hands. When she opened her eyes again, the clearing was gone. She was sitting by a window. The rain tapped gently against the glass. The fire beside her crackled softly. The same porcelain cup sat on the table, steam rising from the tea. But everything felt different. The air hummed with unseen energy. Elena reached for the cup. Her reflection in the window met her gaze, eyes bright and gold. The rain outside whispered, just as before. But this time, it was her voice speaking through it. Someone knocked at the door. A hesitant, trembling knock. She turned her head slowly. A young woman stood there, soaked to the bone, holding a notebook. I heard there's a storyteller here, the stranger said. I need to understand something I read. Elena smiled faintly. Come in, she said. The rain is heavy tonight. The girl stepped inside, her eyes wide as she looked around the room. Elena poured her tea, her movements calm, deliberate. The stranger sat near the fire, clutching her notebook. I found this story in my grandmother's attic, she said. It's about a beast and a girl named Elena. The room grew still. The fire popped once, throwing sparks into the air. Elena's smile did not fade. Her golden eyes caught the light of the flames. I know that story, she whispered. It begins with the rain. Outside, thunder rolled far across the valley. The storm had returned. But this time it was different. It was listening. As the stranger opened her notebook, the rain began to whisper again, each drop carrying the rhythm of words yet to be written. The fire dimmed. The world leaned closer to hear, and the story began once more. The rain outside deepened into a steady rhythm, a living drum that filled the silence between words. Elena watched the young woman by the fire. The stranger's face was pale, framed by strands of wet hair clinging to her cheeks. Her hands shook as she opened the old notebook, its pages wrinkled and stained with age. Read it to me, Elena said softly. Her voice carried a strange warmth, calm but commanding, the kind that quieted storms. The girl hesitated. Her fingers traced the faded ink on the first page. It is written in a language I do not understand, she whispered. Elena leaned forward. Let me see. The girl handed her the notebook. Elena turned it gently in her hands. The writing shimmered faintly beneath the light of the fire, letters that seemed to move when looked at too long. The ink was dark, almost alive, shifting between words. She recognized it instantly. Her grandmother's hand. Elena, the first line read. Then the rest, an unfamiliar script that pulsed with light. As she touched the page, a warmth spread through her fingertips, rising to her chest. The fire flickered higher. The room darkened everywhere else. What is it? The girl asked. Elena's lips trembled. It is not written in any language you can read, she said. It is written in memory. The girl frowned. I do not understand. Elena looked up, her golden eyes catching the reflection of the flames. No one ever does at first, she whispered. The air grew heavier. Rain pressed harder against the windows, like a heartbeat in the dark. The firelight pulsed with the rhythm. The scent of damp roses filled the room again, faint, delicate, haunting. The young woman stared at Elena. Her curiosity was strong, but beneath it lay fear. It flickered across her face like a shadow. What happens in the story? She asked. Elena turned another page. The letters reformed before her eyes. And then she read aloud. There was once a girl who inherited a story too heavy for her heart. A story that rained whenever it was remembered. A story that waited for a listener brave enough to finish it. Her voice changed as she spoke. It deepened, softened, like her grandmother's. The air around them trembled. The candles on the mantel leaned toward her, their flames elongating as though drawn by her breath. The girl leaned closer, wide-eyed. That sounds like you, she said. Elena smiled faintly, though sadness lingered behind it. Maybe it is. Or maybe it is every storyteller who came before me. The girl opened her mouth to reply, but the sound of wind through the chimney drowned her words. It was not ordinary wind. It whispered, slow, deliberate, syllables shaped by the storm. Elena! The young woman stiffened. Did you hear that? Elena nodded slowly. It is only the rain, she said, though her voice faltered. The girl turned toward the window. Her reflection shimmered in the glass, but something moved behind it. A shadow tall and broad. Its eyes glowed faintly gold. Elena! The girl whispered, backing away from the window. There is someone outside. Elena rose from her chair. The old wood creaked beneath her feet. "Do not open the door," she said quietly. But before she could reach the window, the door shuddered once. Then again. The handle turned slowly on its own. The girl gasped. "Elena!" "Stay back," Elena commanded. The door swung open. Cold air rushed in, carrying the scent of wet soil and iron. For a moment, only darkness filled the frame. Then came a voice, deep, ancient, sorrowful. "Elena!" Her name hung in the air like smoke. The beast stepped inside, its form taller than before, its presence filling the room. Its golden eyes met hers, and for a moment the fire dimmed, bowing to it. The girl clutched her notebook, trembling. Elena stood motionless. "You were freed," she said. "I finished your story." The beast's voice rumbled low. "No story ever ends, Elena. It only waits for another voice." The girl whimpered softly. Who is that?" Elena did not answer. She stepped forward, her bare feet silent against the wood. Rain blew in through the doorway, soaking the rug, dripping down her face. The beast looked at the girl, then back at Elena. "You found another," it said. The voice continues. Elena shook her head. "No, she is not ready." The beast's mouth curved into something between a smile and a wound. "She does not need to be ready, only willing." The girl backed toward the fire. "I do not understand what is happening," she said, her voice shaking. "Elena, what is this?" Elena turned to her, eyes glowing softly. "It is a story, child, and it is listening to you." The girl's breath came in short gasps. The room seemed to close in, the air thicker, the shadows deeper. The rain outside now sounded like whispers in hundreds of voices, merging, overlapping, rising into a low chant. "Elena! Elena! Elena!" The beast's shadow stretched across the floor, merging with the girl's. When she looked down, her feet no longer cast a shadow of their own. Her eyes widened. "Elena, what is it doing?" Elena's voice was calm but heavy. "It is choosing. The story must live through someone." The girl shook her head violently. "No, I only came to listen." Elena's eyes softened. "So did I. Once." The beast raised its hand, the movement slow and deliberate. Its claws shimmered faintly, not with menace, but with sorrow. It pointed to the notebook. The girl clutched it tighter to her chest. "Read," the beast said. The word was a command. The girl froze. "Read," it repeated, louder now, the walls trembling. Elena's heart ached. She stepped closer to the girl and took her hand. "Do not be afraid," she whispered. "Fear is the door. Once you walk through, the story knows you." The girl's fingers loosened around the notebook. The fire dimmed. The candles flickered violently, one by one going out. Only the storm's light illuminated the room now, flashes of silver through the rain. She opened the notebook. The pages glowed. The ink began to move again, lines reshaping themselves into new words. She began to read. At first, there was rain, and the rain listened. Her voice trembled, but with each line it grew steadier. The wind shifted. The beast bowed its head. The shadows on the walls dissolved into streams of light. Elena watched, tears gathering in her eyes. The torch had been passed. The story was choosing its new keeper. As the girl read, her voice began to echo, overlapping with her own reflection from the window. Two voices, one real, one from the other side. Then more joined in. The voices of the keepers who came before. The fire flared one last time. The beast's golden eyes dimmed to amber. It looked at Elena, its expression almost human. "You were always meant to bring the rain," it said softly. "And now it will fall through her." Then it was gone. The door swung shut. The wind ceased. Only the rain remained, gentle, eternal. The girl finished reading and lowered the book, her eyes wide, glowing faintly gold. "Elena!" she whispered. But Elena was gone. The chair beside the fire was empty. The teacup still steamed. The rain outside whispered a new name now. Not Elena, but hers. The girl turned to the window. Her reflection smiled back at her. And in the distance, thunder rolled softly. As the story began again. The next morning, the rain had stopped. The sky above the old house was washed clean, soft and gray, with the scent of damp earth rising from the garden. The girl, or whatever she was now, stood by the window, staring at the horizon where mist hung low over the fields. Her name was Maya. At least, that was the name she remembered. She touched the glass, tracing her reflection. Her eyes, once brown, now shimmered faintly gold, like the last ember of a dying flame. She blinked and for a moment saw Elena's face reflected over hers. Older, wiser, sorrowful. Then it vanished, leaving only Maya's pale, confused expression. She turned. The house was silent. Too silent. The fire had gone out during the night. The candles had burned to nothing but wax puddles on the wooden table. The notebook still lay open where she had left it. The ink no longer moved, but it pulsed faintly, like a sleeping heart. "Elena!" Maya whispered. Her voice echoed faintly through the empty room. No answer. She stepped forward, her bare feet cold on the floorboards. A faint trail of damp footprints led toward the door. Elena's, or perhaps something else's. Maya followed them. Each step creaked louder than the last, as though the house was listening. When she reached the door, she hesitated. The memory of the beast still lingered, its eyes, its voice, the weight of its sorrow. But she knew she had to open it. The handle felt warm beneath her hand. She pulled it slowly. Outside, the world seemed untouched by what had happened. Birds sang in the wet branches. The air smelled of pine and smoke. Only the faint sound of dripping water from the eaves reminded her that night had even passed. She stepped outside. The forest beyond the garden swayed gently, 1,000 drops falling from leaf to leaf. Somewhere in the distance, she thought she heard whispering, faint, rhythmic, like the sea in a shell. "Elena! Elena!" But when she listened harder, she realized it wasn't saying that anymore. It was whispering her name. "Maya!" She froze. The sound came from the woods. Her pulse quickened, but something deeper, something not her own, urged her forward. She walked down the stone steps, through the wet grass, and into the trees. The deeper she went, the colder it became. Mist wrapped around her like a living thing, curling over her shoulders and hair. Everywhere she looked, she saw glimpses of shapes, figures fading as soon as she turned. And beneath her feet, the ground glowed faintly gold with each step, as though remembering the light of the story she had read. Finally, she came to a clearing. In the center stood a pool of still water, its surface mirror-smooth. No birds sang here. No wind moved. The world seemed to hold its breath. Maya knelt at the edge of the pool. Her reflection stared back, calm, patient, older somehow. When she reached out to touch it, ripples spread across the surface, distorting her image into something else. A woman's face. "Elena! Elena!" Maya gasped, but the reflection only smiled faintly. Its lips moved, though no sound came at first. Then, softly, like a memory returning, she heard the words. "You are the keeper now." Maya shook her head. "No, I do not understand what that means." Elena's reflection blinked slowly. The story does not belong to one voice. It passes through time, through hearts willing to listen. Each keeper gives it form, gives it breath, gives it pain. Maya's eyes filled with tears. "I do not want it. I only wanted to help you." Elena's reflection dimmed, her face fading into shadow. "Help me, and you help the story. Refuse it, and it will find you again." The water stilled. The reflection vanished. Only Maya remained, and the echo of Elena's words. She sat there for a long time, her hands trembling. The forest had grown darker. The mist thickened until the trees were nothing but gray silhouettes. Somewhere behind her, a branch snapped. She turned sharply. Nothing. Then another sound, closer this time, like footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Maya rose to her feet. Her heart pounded. "Who's there?" she called. Silence. Then, from the fog, a voice, quiet and broken. "You read the book." She froze. It was not the beast's voice. It was younger, human, yet heavy with the same sorrow. A figure emerged from the mist. A boy no older than 16. His clothes were soaked, torn. His eyes glowed faintly, the same gold light that now lived in hers. Maya stepped back. "Who are you?" The boy tilted his head. "I was the keeper before Elena." Her breath caught. He smiled sadly. "She was the last before you. And now you will be the last before another." Maya's hands trembled. "I do not want to be part of this." You already are, he said. The moment you spoke the words, the story claimed you. He stepped closer, his bare feet silent on the wet ground. When the story finds you, it shows you your truth. That is its gift. And its curse. Maya's voice broke. I do not have a truth worth telling. The boy shook his head. All do. The story feeds on what we hide. He reached out his hand. Come. I will show you. Against her will, she took his hand. The world around her blurred. The trees bent inward, folding into themselves until there was nothing left but swirling gold light and the sound of rain falling backward, like time unspooling. When she opened her eyes again, she was standing in a small house. Her house. She knew the scent of it, the wood smoke, the worn rug, the faint trace of lavender. But everything was younger, brighter. And sitting by the window was her mother. Maya gasped. Mom! The woman looked up, smiling gently. Maya, you are late again. Did you get caught in the rain? Her voice, warm, familiar, hit Maya like lightning. She had not heard it since she was 8 years old, since the day her mother disappeared into the flood that had taken their village. Maya's lips trembled. You are alive! Her mother chuckled softly. Of course, my love. Why would I not be? The boy's voice echoed from behind her. The story shows what the heart has buried. Maya turned, tears streaming down her face. Do not do this, she pleaded. But the boy only looked at her with sad understanding. Her mother stood, walking to her. She cupped Maya's face in her hands. Her touch was warm, real. Too real. You have grown, her mother whispered. I miss so much. Maya broke. I try to find you, she sobbed. I waited at the river every day until they told me you were gone. Her mother's eyes shimmered with gold light. I was never gone, only forgotten. The story kept me safe, waiting for you. Maya clung to her. The world around them began to shift, the edges of the room dissolving into golden mist. Her mother's form flickered. Maya, she said softly, her voice fading. When the rain calls your name, answer it. It is not a curse. It is memory, wanting to be remembered. The light engulfed everything. The last thing Maya saw was her mother's smile, and the gold light passing from her hands into Maya's heart. Then the vision shattered. The forest returned. The boy was gone, and Maya was alone again, but not empty. The rain began once more, gentle and endless. She closed her eyes, lifted her face to the sky, and whispered, I remember. The golden chamber trembled with light. The living book in front of Maya pulsed like a giant heart, its pages fluttering as though breathing. Each turn of the page released a ripple of energy that shimmered through the walls, spilling into the hollow trunk of the ancient tree. Maya could feel every beat inside her bones. It was no longer just a sound. It was a pulse that moved in rhythm with her heart. Her reflection on the first page stared back at her, alive, aware, glowing with faint golden veins beneath the skin. It smiled when she did not. Maya, the reflection whispered, it is time. She swallowed hard. Time for what? The pages stopped turning. The words began to form slowly, written by invisible hands of light. To end the silence, you must give the story what it seeks. Her throat tightened. What does it seek? The reflection's smile faded. Truth. A shiver ran through her. The truth, the one she had buried under years of guilt and pain, waited like a ghost in the dark corner of her soul. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind again, soft and warm like summer rain. Maya, the story is not meant to haunt you. It is meant to free you. She closed her eyes. Her fingers trembled as she pressed them against the glowing page, and she began to speak. The truth is that I was afraid, she said softly. I was afraid to lose her. I was afraid to remember the water, the bridge, the scream. I blamed myself for surviving. The book glowed brighter. The air thickened with heat and light. The golden mist around her swirled violently, spinning upward like a storm trapped inside the chamber. But Maya continued. I let the silence live inside me, she said, her voice rising. I stopped telling stories because I feared the pain they carried. I thought silence would protect me. The walls of the chamber shook. The tree groaned like a living giant awakening from centuries of sleep. Light poured through cracks in the wood, bursting outward in radiant streams. But silence, she whispered, is where the beast was born. The reflection nodded slowly, tears of light sliding down its cheeks. Now you see. The golden glow expanded, filling every inch of the chamber. The book began to dissolve, its pages turning into countless motes of light that drifted into the air like fireflies. They circled Maya, humming softly, whispering the words of every forgotten story ever told. Then the voice of the beast returned. Not loud, not cruel, gentle, almost human. Do you forgive yourself? Maya's knees gave way. She sank to the floor, tears streaming down her face. I do, she whispered. For the first time, I do. The beast's golden eyes appeared in the light, faint, transparent, kind. It knelt before her, its massive form flickering like smoke. You have done what the others could not, it said. You gave the story its end. Maya shook her head, voice breaking. There is no end. There are only beginnings. The beast smiled faintly. Then you understand. The light pulsed once more, bright, blinding, pure. When it faded, the chamber was empty. The book was gone. The beast was gone. Only Maya remained, kneeling in silence, bathed in soft gold light. She stood slowly. The walls of the tree no longer shimmered. They were calm, warm, alive. A door of light appeared before her, leading back to the forest. She took one last look around. It felt like saying goodbye to something that had always lived inside her. Then she stepped through. The world outside was transformed. The rain had stopped. The sun broke through the clouds, scattering diamonds across the wet leaves. Every tree shimmered faintly, every drop of water glowing with the soft memory of gold. The forest breathed again, gentle, alive, forgiving. She looked down. The ground beneath her feet pulsed faintly, veins of gold light spreading outward from where she stood. The world was remembering. The forgotten stories, the ones lost in silence, were waking. She walked through the clearing where she had once met the boy. Now there was no mist, only sunlight and the scent of fresh rain. For a moment, she thought she saw him standing at the edge of the trees, smiling, fading gone. The wind carried his voice to her. You did it! Maya smiled through her tears. She reached the edge of the forest and looked toward the village below. Smoke rose gently from chimneys. Children laughed somewhere in the distance. Life had returned. She walked down the path, her steps light, her heart full. The world felt new, yet ancient. Every breeze carried the whisper of stories, some old, some not yet told. She realized then that the story was not just hers. It was everyone's. The rain, the beast, the silence, all parts of a truth that connected every soul that ever spoke, listened, or dreamed. As she neared the village, people gathered at the edge of the road. They looked at her in awe. Her skin glowed, faintly with traces of gold that faded as she drew closer. An old woman stepped forward, eyes wide with recognition. Elena, the woman breathed. Maya smiled softly. No, she said. I am Maya, but Elena lives on in the story. The villagers looked at one another, murmuring. Somewhere, a bell rang. A child ran forward and handed her a small flower, white, wet with rain. Maya took it gently and whispered, Every story begins again with rain. That night, the village gathered around the fire. Maya sat among them, her hair still damp, her eyes reflecting the flames. The people waited in silence, expectant. And then she began to speak. Once long ago, she said, there was a house that remembered the rain. Inside it lived a story that had forgotten its ending. The listeners leaned closer. The fire crackled softly. Her voice flowed like water, calm, steady, filled with warmth. She spoke of the beast, of Elena, of the tree of light, of silence and forgiveness. And when she finished, the night air seemed to sigh in relief. The villagers sat quietly for a moment, as if afraid to break the spell. Then one of them whispered, Tell another. Maya smiled. Tomorrow. There is always another. Later, when everyone had gone to sleep, she sat alone beneath the stars. The air was cool and sweet with the scent of wet earth. She looked toward the forest, where faint threads of gold still glowed between the trees. She felt no fear, no sorrow, only peace. From the distance, she heard rain begin again, soft, patient, endless. She closed her eyes and listened. Each drop was a heartbeat, a word, a memory. And among them, one voice rose, her mother's, tender and proud. "Well done, my child." Maya smiled. The sound faded into the rain, into the night, into the story that would never truly end. Because every time the rain touched the earth, and every time a voice dared to tell a story, the world remembered. And somewhere, in the quiet between heartbeats, the beast listened still. The end.